Hey, everybody. Welcome to Makeup or Breakup. It's Coach Judith here, the love coach.
That's right.
When we're here, the Lou and Judith show, I like to say, frickin' frack or, 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Red shoe, blue shoe. And coming back to talk about all the different aspects of love. And I think it was last week, right? We had Rachel on.
Yes.
And Rachel is a phenomenal personal stylist.
Stylist, yes.
I mean, it's kind of cool. She typically works with women, but she does sometimes get involved with styling men, especially if she had a female client and said, hey, why don't you do this with my husband?
I thought that was funny. When I asked her if she had male clients, she said, sometimes I have male clients because of female clients, like the woman in the couple makes the man go through it. It's just hilarious.
Well, do you remember there was a comedy, a play, at least it ran in Boston for a while. I always wanted to see it. It's called I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much says it all, Lou, with, how we date sometimes.
I'm just trying to think of what's going on in the guy's mind. Although, to be honest, a lot more men are more fashion and appearance conscious now.
Right.
That used to be, and I was not from that side of the track and not that era. Put on a nice shirt and some jeans, and you're good to go, right?
Right.
But there are guys who are much more fashion conscious now, so probably not a big deal for them.
Yeah, I think the fashion world has really evolved to. I think there were so many designers that were men, and they probably at a certain point said, "Why are we only designing for women?" Men can wear yellow shirts. It doesn't have to be a white shirt or a blue shirt. And I think it's great how it's sort of evolved. And now you guys even wear the stretchy jeans like we wear.
62 years old, and I have my first pair of stretch jeans. It's just amazing.
Right. Next,
this is what a relationship will do to you, by the way.
Right.
Get you in stretch jeans.
About to buy you some jeggings next.
What's that?
They're leggings that look like jeans. So they're like denim leggings, which I think defeats the purpose of anything out there. I think they're ludicrous, but that's just me. Yeah.
By the way, I like them though, so I'm glad. I'm kind of upset I came to them so late. I kind of like them.
Right. They just have a little bit of give to them.
Yep.
And it just makes it that much more comfortable.
They're lighter than the regular denim jeans too.
They generally are.
Yeah.
Yep. Not always, but yeah. A lot of times they are. They're like a thinner fabric. So we were talking about that and getting ready for dates and how do you dress and how do you present yourself? And as you and I know, we've all read the research. The first impression happens within seconds. It's not a minute, it's seconds.
Yep.
You show up on a date looking like a schlump, even though it's a baseball game or even though it's ice cream only, it doesn't matter. You have to put a little more effort into it. And I think, for those of you that might be thinking about this, either as a woman or as a guy, we're talking about it again this week, just for a couple of minutes here, just to tie in last week. Watch last week's episode and get in touch with her. She's out in Minnesota, but the majority of her clients aren't even in Minnesota. They're all over the US. And that's the beauty of the Zoom world that we're all in, right?
Mm-hmm.
My hair is like in the way here. But today, I wanted to sort of follow up on the topic of dating and something that I've mentioned a few times, but then we never get around to it because we have so many wonderful other topics to talk about, like divorce. But today we're going to talk about why we date so many people when we work with Coach Judith.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes, and then I'm going to talk about things that you want to be asking the guy or the woman in your life after you've been dating for, 6, 8, 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to get onto some of the topics about futures and things like that. So sort of avoiding, we didn't talk about that before we got married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. When we talk about dating, when I talk about coaching, I talk about it's a numbers game. And I don't know. I know you're pickier, so you would be like, I'm not going to date 20. I'm going to wait for the 1 or the 2.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable on my end. I understand the concepts involved because, again, I think it's important to be able to do the cycle and to date someone and then not date someone so that you
Right.
don't feel you get locked into a bad relationship, especially when things get revealed, like you're about to talk about, you know,
Mhm.
a few months down the line, because during the quote unquote dating period and honeymoon period, you don't find out everything.
Right. Exactly. And when we're dating, it's important to remember we're not just dating, even though we may be thinking we want to find a special person. We're not just dating with that goal, although that is what sort of um, that is sort of the premise for me pushing people to date multiple people and to really get a flavor of, I like this about this woman, this about this woman. Hey, who knows? Let's be crazy. Maybe I can find a woman that likes going to the Caribbean and she likes to knit socks. I don't know. I mean,
Who knows?
yeah, it's possible, but not if you stop on the third person that knits but doesn't like the Caribbean.
Right.
Because now the person that likes the Caribbean and knits is out there looking for you, and you already circumvented with date 3 or date, the third person on Match.com in the first hour that you're on there.
All right. Well, let me just say this and get it out of the way first.
Yeah.
So we can go on, so we can get past the subject, because the reason people have problems with this, I believe, is that, and it's back to working on yourself, because the reason people go back into dating after a relationship and sometimes do it too early is they think, I'm never going to have another relationship again. It's
Right.
like, I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. And then you get into these dating situations and what you find someone reasonably acceptable, right? You find,
right. Mr. or Mrs. Okay.
yeah, she's nice. He's nice. We could date for a while. Again, back with the fear of, I'm not going to find someone else this quote unquote acceptable.
Right.
So you can't go into dating with this attitude that you have a limited number of people, a limited number of opportunities, and you should settle immediately for something that's not the best fit. You've got to go in with the strength to be able to go, well, I like her. It's nice. We can, continue to date or something, but I still want to see what's out there.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I also think people make the mistake that I made with when I had done my time, I had done my healing, but I met someone who had not, and I knew it. But in my mind, I was literally having this conversation with myself saying, don't do it. Yeah. It's too soon for him. And the other part of me said, but he's the one that asks me out on Tuesday or Wednesday for the Saturday night date. Yep. He's the one that sends me flowers. He's the one that says his ex is crazy, so he has minimal amount of exposure and contact with her, which we all know is a flashing red light, because sooner or later there's going to be something if there's kids involved. Not if there's no kids, but if there's kids involved, the we don't talk is out the window when little Billy doesn't come home until 3 a.m.
Right.
After he gets his license and he's not supposed to be out with friends. But yes, you're right. Two things that go hand in hand: insecurity and impatience. People are impatient. They don't like to wait. And patience is not easy for everybody. It's probably not most people's number one quality. It's something that has to be typically learned. It's typically something that comes with typically a sense of maturity. Young people that are patient, who are like in their teens, are usually patient for a not that great reason. They're patient because, they have a parent that's an alcoholic at home and they have to just become an adult, and they have to be patient with the fact that mom's not going to wake up until 11:30 in the morning. Or they have to be patient because they just know it's another day. Mom's hungover or dad's hungover, and I'm not going to make the school bus. And it's going to be 2 more hours before mom or dad can be sober or well enough to drive me to school. The typical young adult and onward isn't necessarily patient. We're kind of we're a see it, grab it society, especially not just because of the internet, but compared to other countries. You can complain about the United States, but there's a lot of it is still the land of opportunity,
right? And
there's a lot to be said.
Well, we aren't raised with delayed gratification anymore.
No, we're not.
We don't accept delayed gratification, unfortunately, because it's a very positive and helpful skill.
Right. And that's why people use credit cards instead of saving up for a year for the car and then just paying cash or whatever. You know, Dave Ramsey always says that a credit card, it should be called a debt card.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yep.
But
don't finance your pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're going to pay it off as soon as your bill comes in.
Right.
And that's actually a good thing because you're building up your credit.
But without delayed gratification, what you're working on is impulse. And that's a very dangerous thing to do in a relationship, working on impulse.
Right. And when it comes to relationships, people are so impatient that they feel like their typical way of looking at things is a little bit skewed depending on so many different factors, right?
Yeah.
Immaturity and impatience, that someone that looks great to them, to the outside world, meaning people that know them well, or to me, who's an outsider that gets to know them, we see these people as not a good fit. We see these people as, how many times have you said, Bill, to your buddies, not to Bill, but you say, oh, Bill, I can't believe like that woman that he started dating. Like,
yeah.
And everybody looks at each other because you know what you're all thinking. What are we going to do about this? And the answer is
nothing.
You're not going to get anywhere. Bill doesn't want to hear it.
Yep.
Right. Bill doesn't like the fact that he finally found a date that he thinks is worth keeping.
Right.
A woman that actually returned his phone calls and said yes to dinner, which, the majority of women will say yes to a dinner. Let's be honest. And it's a really hard thing. But when they're working with me, they're paying me to be honest. They're paying me to be like their friend, but more honest.
Yep.
More stern and more rigid, because you signed up for this plan. And I told you ahead of time it was going to be kind of difficult because it goes against what you're used to. And the impatience just leads to circumventing the process. And when you circumvent it, you really lose the fact that on a scale of 1 to 10, you might be dating someone that's a 7.5. Now that's not bad. That's good. That's not bad. That's a good date. But what if there was an 8 or an 8.5? Now people would say, what's the difference? It's 8 and 8.5. It's only like a point. Scale of 1 to 10 is, it's like huge. A 7 to a 7.5 is okay, but that's where your relationship should be in 5 years.
Yeah.
When you come back down to reality and things are good, they're not always going to be a 10, and they certainly, typically wouldn't be a 9 unless nobody's talking about their issues or their problems or their disagreements. Then you can always be a 9 or a 10 if you never speak up. But the other thing we talk about sometimes here, Lou, and I think you'd agree. So thinking back to when you were dating and not, you were still single.
Yeah.
The number one thing that we forget, especially, and you and I might not have done this as much, but a lot of people forget. It's not about finding Mr. and Mrs. Right. It's about having fun during the process of meeting people. Don't look at it as, okay, I get it. You can say it once or twice to me. That's all. Then you never get to say it again. I get it. You want to be in a partnership. You want to have a girlfriend. You want to have a boyfriend. You think you want to get married. Maybe you want to have kids. Maybe you want to have a dog or a frog or a kitten or whatever.
Yep.
But you have to enjoy going out, meeting new people. You have to make yourself say, it's uncomfortable, but it's like going to the office party where you have to make small talk.
Yep.
And that's why people stop it, because they don't want to go have small talk with 10 different men and women. But do you know what I'm saying with the small talk? It's like it's a part of the maturity.
But they also don't want to reject or be rejected. And that's a tough process for everyone. And that's what you have to get through. You have to be able to handle that process. And, in the course of a couple of dates, obviously it's not the same deal as at the end of a relationship. But going back to your point, the problem becomes when you prioritize being in a relationship over the person that you're in the relationship with.
That's it. Right. Not good.
When it's more important to be in a relationship than to have the right person in a relationship, that's where you run into trouble. And I'm guessing many people repeat that pattern quite often. I'm just quite certain guys do. Again, I think it's a different world for guys and girls because women, it would seem to me from the outside, seem to have a lot of options. Guys don't. So that might be a source of my reluctance with the numbers game theory because, guys, a reasonably attractive, fun woman is interested enough in going out on a date with you. Yeah, you date her.
Yeah, You can grab a pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth a pizza or worth a cup of coffee. But again, it's a good thing to be able to say, I want to date. And it's a better thing to say, I want to do it right. Because when I'm coaching people, I'm so into the process. I'm not just like, go do your thing and check in with me in 2 weeks. I am the process for the first few weeks.
Yeah.
I am the one that created your new profile. I'm the one that said yay or nay to your pictures. I work with photographers to have, for $200, go get a photo shoot and get some that you can even use for your Christmas card.
Yeah.
Like put your dog in the picture if you want, or you love the ocean, sit on some rocks by the ocean, get a photographer. I know a couple of great photographers. One of them loves doing this kind of photo shoot. The more fun, the better. And she gets people to relax. And because she's so easygoing and nice, people they start chatting with her. And before they know it, they're having their picture taken.
Right.
But again, I just want to emphasize before we go much further is when you circumvent the process, you will eventually trip up and wish you hadn't done that. And one of the reasons is because eventually what tends to happen is your friends and family are more stressed out in your inner circle. They're going to become more stressed out about your bad fit than you are.
Right.
And so what's going to happen is this ripple effect where you're going to lose some of your friendships, your trusted friends, the family that you used to love having you over for, 4th of July barbecue. There's going to be this weird tension and you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, they don't like my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is they may not super dislike her. I mean, depends on what she's like.
Yep.
But the main thing that they're upset about is that you're dating someone who is clearly not a good fit, and that the signs, if they can see it, you can definitely see it. You're just choosing not to see it. These aren't the subtle things like
right.
Jane has a husband in Switzerland, or Jane has 3 ex-husbands in Italy, France, and Switzerland. Those are the things that your friend Bill is going to find out over time. These are the more obvious things, like my personal favorite. And I don't do this, but I will say, because my husband has a large family with lots of siblings that all have spouses, and most of them have kids.
Yeah.
And I remember for the first year or two, going to those group functions and still sometimes I can get a little bit uneasy because they all have their own language and their topics that they talk about.
Right.
And so I had to force myself not to stand next to him the entire time, like at his sister's pool party or at his mom and dad's house if they're having people over for a lunch to celebrate one of the 55 nieces and nephews' birthdays.
Yeah.
I had to force myself to find a few people, which is called maturity. This is called like how we figure out small talk in a mature situation.
Yeah.
In order to be with him, I can't be a wallflower, and I have to go pick out some people who are my allies.
Yeah.
And that's kind of key, as opposed to someone going like this. Yeah. So like, it's been half an hour. When are we going to leave?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Or worse yet, we've all had that date that never leaves your side, and it makes you so uncomfortable because you know that they're just not having a good time and they're not able to find one person to chat with.
Right.
For me, when I do my date coaching, I tell my clients all my secret tips and tricks that always seem to work. And one of them was when you're at a barbecue, and I don't know if you've ever done this, just go over to the guy that's flipping the burgers because he's bored. He's by himself. He's enjoying himself. He likes, like my husband loves grilling.
Yeah.
But I inevitably, even in my husband's family, one of his sisters, the husband was always doing all this massive grilling. And I just stood next to him and made a comment like, wow, those burgers are huge. And then he got so excited because he's like, yeah, it's made with pork and this. And it's like this really like cool burger that he made.
Yep.
But it's just such an easy thing to find. I always tell people, if you're going to meet your in-laws for the first time or anything like that, if it's a barbecue and it's summertime, it's great. Or find a kid. Kids talk to anybody.
Yeah, that's right.
You just find a way to kick the ball that, goes beyond the 2 kids playing. you can always fit in with a kid because kids aren't going to judge you.
Listen, a good opener is always asking people about themselves. Always.
Right.
Yeah, that always starts a comfortable conversation, and it obviously nothing too deeply personal or things like that. But
Right.
that's a nice dress you're wearing today, or I mean, not a man to a woman necessarily, but
Yeah.
those type of conversation.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that we're talking about. But at the end of the day, when you're dating, there's, like I said, there's this maturity factor that says, you know what? I'm going to be free to analyze this person because it's in my best interest and it's not in their best interest for neither of us to be looking at these things, because if we're not a good fit, I hate to say it, Lou, but someone has to be the one, and it's usually my client. Somebody has to be the one that says, you know what? I've really enjoyed the last couple of months.
Yep.
And I've just been thinking a lot about where we're going with our futures, maybe things that we've talked about for like where we want to live, whatever it is. You think of something and you just say, I just don't see us down the road. I don't see a close enough fit. But here's the key phrase. I don't know about you, but I've been thinking about our career paths and our, master's programs that we're applying to. So that gives them an out to say, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
If they want, who cares? It's a breakup. It's fine to give somebody an out. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be too, like, my favorite thing is when people are like so long-winded about it. It's like, oh my God, you're making them feel worse by the minute.
Yeah.
And don't ever say, I'm sure there's someone out there for you.
Oh yeah.
That's so insulting, but everybody does it, Lou.
I know.
Everybody does it. They don't know what else to say at the end of the conversation other than, okay, I got to go. So, I just broke up with you.
Yeah.
I'll do it. It's like, so, hey, good luck. That's a terrible thing to say. You have to rehearse it with me and get to the point where you can just say, I guess that's it for now. Maybe I'll see you out and about. And that's it.
There's so many people who would rather not rather be in a relationship than do the breakup, but will take more relationship because they don't want to do the breakup. That's a priority for them. Yeah. They don't want to go through the breakup. And this is why learning the cycle is so important, to give you the skills to be able to do the breakup.
It's really important, because how many times have we or our friends or our coworkers said, there were warning signs 2 days before the wedding and I didn't have the guts to pull the plug. Or like, in my situation, I had recently become engaged to my second husband, and we went to another wedding in New Jersey. It was one of his two close female friends from when they all worked together for a company out in Western Mass, out around like Pittsfield, Lenox, that area. And I really like this woman. She's great. Really nice. And we went to their wedding. And did I tell you this? I forget if I told this story, but
I don't think so.
I know I've told the story, but what happened was, I was all excited, and, the women, and the woman that got married, her husband, I think I'd met him once or twice before. And so they wanted to see the ring and this and that. And I felt okay, but again, it was a house wedding and I really didn't know anybody. I can't sit and chat with the bride, because she and her husband are busy. And my fiance was chit-chatting with people about the industry that they're all in. And I didn't feel like being the wall. I didn't want to be the person just clinging to his side. So, I gave him his space. I thought that was mature. So I'm walking around. It was a very small house. In fact, for some reason, we were not even outside. Come to think of it, they had a medium-sized 3-season porch, not even that big. It was a small wedding. There might have been 25 people. I can't remember why we weren't outside for a wedding. That's kind of weird because they did have a yard. But anyway, maybe she had fear of flies or something like that, or tick phobia. So
there you go.
Yeah, right. So I do what I do. I decide, you know what? I don't have to talk. I don't have to feel like I'm engaged in this group or this group, because so many people knew each other. I decided I'd go for the food. and then talked to some people in the food line, like, oh, wow, this looks delicious. Like just stupid stuff, right?
Yep.
And then I made my way out to the Three Season porch where they had set up little tables so you could like bistro tables after the wedding ceremony. So I'm just sort of standing around there, and believe it or not, it's kind of strange that they were all like crammed into the dining room, living room of a small house. But one guy came out. He was, I don't know, maybe not that much older than me, maybe, I don't know, 10 years older than me, maybe something like that. And we're chit-chatting. And after like 10 minutes, I mean, he was very nice. He was from New York, I think, but this part of New Jersey was close to New York. And somehow he asked me, so who are you with? How do you know Carrie? And Carrie was his, still is presumably his stepdaughter. He had a really good relationship with her. He loved her a lot. Treated her like a daughter. And I think he had been in her life for several years, maybe 20. Could have even been since she was a teenager. So he talked to me a little bit about Carrie and what she was like as a teenager and things like that. And when he found out who I was, it was weird. It was like E.F. Hutton spoke. The ads,
yeah,
silence.
Just stopped. Yeah.
Yep. So, I probably was on my second gin and tonic. I wasn't noticing the social cue that he had stopped because I had mentioned.
That's a road he didn't want to go down.
And I'm like, well, no, he was shocked and upset. And so he's like, wait, hold on a minute. And he pulls me by the arm a little bit. And he was a really nice guy. I liked him a lot. In fact, I was thinking, if you weren't married and I wasn't engaged, I would date you in a heartbeat. I liked him. Just had a really fun vibe, and he was just down to earth,
Yep.
He goes, come here. He goes, are you saying that you're with that guy? And I'm like, yep. And because the whole time I'm thinking, he's just trying to piece it together because he's a family member and I'm not.
Yep.
Right. So he's like, so you're with him. And I'm like, yeah, we came down from Boston yesterday and slept at the hotel 10 minutes down the road, the Marriott, whatever it was. And here we are. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, we have to talk.
Oh God.
Yep. And he said, so that they knew each other back in Massachusetts before she moved down here to New Jersey.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, they all worked together at this company, right? He goes, yeah. So the deal was she would come down here and your husband, your fiance, who was still married at the time, supposedly leaving his wife and taking a job down here. He was an executive. He could get a job anywhere, Lou.
Right.
So she leaves Massachusetts for this job in New Jersey. It was a good company.
Yep.
But thinking he's coming.
Oh my God. Wow.
And he's going to leave his wife. And as we know, what do we know about these kinds of promises?
Doesn't always happen.
They hardly ever happen.
Yeah.
Look, if it takes a woman 7 to 10 times on average to leave, but then go back 7 to 10 times before they finally leave an abuser. All right. I'm talking domestic violence.
Right.
Then imagine how hard it is for someone to leave when it's not that bad. Like she's not hitting me. She's not spending all our money, most of it, but not all of it.
Yeah.
She's a pretty good mom. We don't parent the same, but she's a pretty good mom. There's just not enough hate. Not that this would be a good thing, but there isn't even enough wood to smoke up this fire and to get this guy or any guy motivated to leave if it's not that bad. And, she was not, I don't even know if she was married. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. Thinking back, I think she was married for some time when they all worked together. She was. God, that was even better. I just figured out more of the story.
Oh, nice.
I think there were two married people having an affair, and the deal was, let's get out of Dodge. And in his mind, he could still see his kids like every other weekend, or he could figure that out because, okay, so it's a 5-hour drive, but he loves to drive. Like he does. He's that type of guy.
Yep.
So imagine me. So he was about to tell me more, and then someone came into the room. And I kept thinking for the rest of like the next couple of hours, I've got to get that guy alone. But how could I do that? Because people are milling around, and that was a chance in a million that the two of us ended up in that sun porch alone. But the story is here.
How does he end up at her wedding, by the way?
Who? My fiance?
Yeah.
Because they remained, don't ask me how, they remained good friends.
Okay.
After being, left at the close altar there, I wouldn't be friends with the guy anymore. But honestly, he's so connected in their industry that it behooved her to stay in touch with him and to work out her forgiveness issues.
Right.
And he basically insinuated to me that she practically had a nervous breakdown over it, that he'd made these promises and he never showed up because he's like, well, he was supposed to follow her to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And he didn't come right out and say the two of them had an affair and they were both married, but he didn't have to.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, the funniest thing about that, Lou, so you talk about dating and now I'm engaged to this person. I had wondered about this person, not because she's a woman, none of that. It's a vibe.
Yeah. Oh, you just felt the vibe. Yeah.
Yep. I felt the vibe. And interestingly enough, a year and a half later, we got married and we went to Bermuda. And they didn't come. There was just a few friends, but they weren't them. And so we had a big party in Lexington in my backyard afterward. And they came. And what's so interesting is during, my like a wedding party in Lexington, one of my best friends came and she caught me. I was by myself. It's like funny how that happens. Hardly ever by myself, but whenever I am, I get into trouble. So I was in my home office. I don't even know what I was doing in there. I think I might have set a bar up in there. That's probably what I was doing. It's a nice way to use your credenza file cabinet.
There you go. Yeah.
Set up another bar. You can never have too many bars in a house. And she came in, she goes, Judith, we have to talk. I'm like, about to have a gin and tonic. In case you didn't know, summer months, it's my gin and tonic. Okay. I've even discovered I have this favorite gin. That's how weird I'm getting.
Nice.
But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but she's like, no, we really have to talk. I'm like, okay, hurry up. Because I'm pouring myself a drink and I was probably getting somebody else a drink. That woman out there from New Jersey, I'm getting a really bad vibe. I'm like, oh God, I'm like, it's nothing. I'm like, there's nothing there. I mean, she may have a crush on him, but it ain't happening. I went to her wedding a year ago. She's like, nope, there's seriously something there. I'm like, she goes, I don't know if there's anything going on there, but this woman is like gaga for your husband. And I remember thinking to myself, is it too soon to say she can have him? Because
really? Yeah,
I am, early on in high school, when my high school boyfriend cheated on me, I made I made a declaration out loud to myself. I'm like, I'm never going to fight for a guy. I'm just not.
Yep.
I'm just not. I'm like, you know what? You can have him. It's not worth, I'm not fighting for it unless I'm married. It's like, yeah. But, part of me just felt like, you know what? If there's this long history with the two of them and she's not happily married, but she got married anyway, thinking this guy's never circling back. And now it's over because I come to her wedding engaged. Come to think of it, I don't know how that went over.
I wonder if her husband knew.
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like he was privy to a lot. Yeah. Yeah. But there were a lot of weird things going on with that circle of friends. On the outside, it just looked like a normal group of executives and whatnot. But my friend came and found me again later on, and she goes, "You've got to get in the living room." I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go outside. It was a really hot day, but I just felt like going out back. I'm like, come on, someone's got to go out back. I decorated the whole backyard. So here's what I get. That woman from New Jersey, man, that's just, I'm like, look, I don't want to hear about it anymore. I get it. Like, yeah, she probably has a crush on him still. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because no, I'm a little bit more concerned about her husband. I'm like, what? And he was kind of a tall, skinny, geeky guy. He was the only one in that group that was probably the friendliest to me. So I actually kind of liked him. I didn't really know anything about him except that he was like a stay-at-home husband.
Right.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And she liked it because she would come home and there'd be food. So I'm like, what now could possibly be going on at my wedding party with the couple from New Jersey?
Yeah.
She goes, well, you're not going to believe it. I'm like, well, you know what? There's a lot of things I wouldn't believe, but I would believe it. So you're not going to believe this. Now, remember, they've been married for like a year and a half. And most of the people at my party, there were like 55 people. They were mostly from like Lexington or college. Like,
Sure.
these people are like the couple of friends he had who came to the party. Everybody else is like my friends or our friends.
Right.
They don't know. I'm not going to make this up. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. She says he's in there telling everybody with great gusto, okay, not about her and my husband, but it gets better than that, about what he used to do for a living when he was a teenager, a runaway teenager. He left his house at 16, went to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the whole story because I wasn't in the living room, but apparently there were predators out there like there are looking for runaways and whatnot. And they got him into the pornography movie industry. And apparently he was kind of like a stuntman or something for, he wasn't like a star in these movies. But now remember, my mom would be, and my son would be walking in and out of the living room.
Yeah.
Joining, leaving, joining, who knows who heard that story? And I looked at her and I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure you're making that up because she's a storyteller like me. I'm like, come on.
Why would you make that up?
She's like, I couldn't make this up. And she really wanted me to get in there. But of course, by the time I got in there, the story was over.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's when I kind of said, it's probably a good thing. Not that I'm jealous of her, but it's probably a good thing that they live down in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't really want this guy hanging out with my son and his friends. And he's the type of guy that would think it was okay to tell that kind of story at a wedding party. He's the type of guy that's going to think it's funny to tell a 13-year-old boy.
Aren't you just fascinated on how that subject even came up? How do you get to that point in the conversation?
Lou, honestly, the only thing I can think of is he felt insecure around all these people that had decent jobs. Yep. And he was trying to just, because he probably made a joke of himself and said, yep, I think the longest job I've ever had was when I was a teenager till I was like 22.
Oh, God.
And then he proceeded to tell people about it, thinking that he's now the life of the party because he definitely had, let's just leave it at this. I mean, he had people's attention.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
I really wish I could work that into my book.
Yeah. Oh, sure you can. You got to work that into your book. Yeah.
I don't know how I can. It's a story about people that get married to the wrong people and then they eventually get divorced, which I did do, but I'd have to work in his friends.
Life is funny, isn't it?
Right. Or I could do it. I could do a chapter about her because she was married and clearly had an affair with her boss / executive, AKA my future husband.
Yep.
Moves to New Jersey thinking he's coming with, and then lo and behold, the moral of the story, boys and girls, they often don't move to New Jersey just because you went and took that job. I know I'm surprised. In a lot of ways, I'm surprised that, like, I don't know if I would have gotten over that. I don't know if I would have said, because by then she had a lot of experience. She didn't really need him for a reference anymore. She's now working for one of the biggest video gaming companies out there next to like Sony.
So what do you think her frame of mind is while she's dating and runs across her eventual husband? And
okay, what do you mean?
Eyes through this story.
Okay, wait. Tell me what you mean by.
This is a person who ended up with her husband, the porn stand-in.
And how they met is, I think he was up in Massachusetts. So he was like plan B when this one, wasn't working maybe or something. I don't know.
But don't you think there was a little bit of lack of self with that woman while she's dating people and hunting for a relationship? And what happens is you find, or you attract, however way you want to put it, you find these type of people when you're vulnerable and you need the relationship more than you need. There was no self-health there. There was no sense of self. No,
you're right. Because
she's coming out of a marriage. She's coming out of a failed affair, probably pretty beaten down at that point and never took the time to heal before she started going back and.
Right. And I forget the details, but
what was the time frame approximately between her experience with your husband and the wedding?
Mm. Oh, probably. I'm going to guess, I don't know, 6 to 8 years, maybe.
Really?
Like not 2, but yeah.
Yeah. So she moved down to New Jersey, and then
Mhm.
none of that happened, and then she stayed there for 6 years. I don't know.
She stayed in New Jersey because she had a really good job. I mean, she did move for a good job. But you're right, because nobody thought that this woman, who for all intents and purposes she was very pretty, she was smart, she was fun, like she's the one that you'd go out on a date with and say, you know what, that was so easy because she's so fun and keeps the conversation going. But I just dropped one of my things here. I dropped a prop.
Oh no.
Not because it rhymes. I can use it next time. But you're right, because now that you're mentioning it, there was something about her teenage years. I think there was a huge upset with her dad, and it didn't end well. I don't know if he was like abusive or an alcoholic, and I know that having this stepdad come in was like, I mean, she had nothing but accolades to say about him.
Yeah.
And I think that she may have gone through some tumultuous, couple of rebellious years as a result of the divorce and that kind of thing. But, you're right, because we were just talking about, if you don't get it right, you're going to start to lose friendships, and you're going to make everybody uncomfortable with your poor decision, because this is the person you're going to bring to Christmas parties. It's a person that you're going to want to bring to the Caribbean when 6 couples get together or whatever, 3 couples go to Florida. Nobody liked the guy.
I was going to say, how many times do you think he got? One of the reasons he probably told the story is because how many times does he get to tell the story anymore? He's probably not. They probably haven't got a circle of friends down there.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, I do know that there was some talk about he became a mailman, and so he would go, and apparently he was making friends with women all around town. Now, we could speculate, and apparently it seems like her friends, aka my husband and other people, were speculating,
yeah,
like he just knew a little too much about some of these people. I mean, how many mailmen like really get to know you? Not that many.
Not that many at all. Yeah.
Right. But that was a great job for him, because he liked being outside. He liked chit-chatting with people.
How many times did he tell that story on his route?
I know. And she probably liked it because, he got out of the house. Because I think at a certain point, she kind of felt like, look, we don't even have kids, for God's sakes. Like, what are you doing all day? Well, it's chit-chatting and, having coffee with the females that were in the neighborhood that weren't going to work. I'm not making this up.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm sure he liked to tell them that story because it would make him seem allegedly sexy and cool. I'm like, nah, not really. I'd be like skeeved out by that. I'd be like, well,
yeah,
I don't know. That's
well,
like,
if he had a dating profile, he'd have a picture with his shirt off. I'm willing to bet.
I'm sure he would.
Yeah,
I'm sure he would. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to think a little bit. I don't remember how they met.
Yeah,
but you're right. She wanted the next guy. She didn't want to be alone. This guy paid attention to her. He wasn't always nice to her. I think he'd go out sometimes and not like tell her where he went. He'd be out late, kind of like just like not good behavior. And she put up with it. And that's one of the reasons why people didn't like him.
right.
He was taking advantage of her, knowing that she wasn't strong enough. She didn't have a backbone to like leave this guy.
She was prioritizing being in a relationship over being in a good relationship or with the right person.
Right. And what do we say about that?
Always trouble. Always.
It always ends up being trouble.
Which is why you can't go from one relationship to the other while you're still feeling I'm never going to find another relationship, or I have to be in a relationship that needs to be to complete my life. You've got to get in a good space. Otherwise, you're just going to keep repeating this pattern over and over and over again, because the people who are the bad people are the ones who are the people who have trouble with the relationships are the ones generally who date well. They present a good front. They are very attentive at the beginning. They know how to work that beginning of a relationship, but they don't know how to sustain a relationship.
Right. Well, it's kind of like, the Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, typical narcissist behavior, right? Everybody loves a narcissist when they first meet them.
Right. And, to a certain degree, I'm looking for that with my clients. I'm like, look, is it too good to be true? Does it walk like a duck? Does it look like a duck?
Yeah.
Is it talking like a duck? Are the dates like a duck? If all these things are lining up, it's a duck. And you have to be really careful, because a narcissist in particular, not to go down that route, because we can talk about that next week perhaps, but
right.
we haven't really talked about narcissism for a while. But a narcissist, unconsciously and consciously, is like a Venus flytrap. They are looking for the victim. They're looking for the next victim that they can prey upon. It's really a predatory kind of, I like to use that word just because it's a predatory type of engagement with humans, whether it's at work, the narcissist at work, have you ever noticed, like, the person that gets everybody else to do their work because they just feel like, oh, well, Bob's too busy, or, oh, Jane's got such a big job, she can't do all this, so I'm just going to pitch in and help her. I'll stay late. Yeah.
What they know is there are people who are around who are looking for the self that they're trying to present. And it is predatory because, as you know, predators become very skilled at what they do. And narcissists, whether it's conscious or not, they become very skilled at picking people who will go along far enough to get entrapped in the whole situation.
Right. Yeah. And the sad thing with that is that most of us, we see the warning signals, but we're on our own, and we don't want to be on our own. And that's the problem. So with me, I see these signs. I often literally visually see these signs because I'm watching a date.
Yep.
Now that people are getting together back in person, during COVID, I used to have to sneak around the woods or get a table near somebody at a Starbucks, because the first or second date, I'm going to be in the vicinity where my client is having dinner or coffee or taking a walk.
Yep.
And I want to see the interactions. What's it look like? What's the body language? Because again, you and I, we've probably even done this before, but like, we could be sitting at a pizza joint and watch these other two people interact.
Yep.
And you and I would be very good, I think, at being able to see he's not so into her, she's oblivious.
Yep.
Or he's not so into her, she's trying too hard. She senses it, but she's not strong enough to say, I need to just like cut this out and pretend I got a phone call and leave the pizza joint.
Right.
She's working it because she's sensing that she's not getting him engaged. But again, what's that? That's a one-sided relationship.
Right.
There's a person that says, geez,
but it's the difference between, this isn't working out with this guy, and I need this relationship, so I'm going to try to make it work with this guy. And that's all the difference in the world. Right.
And the thing is, I don't have a problem with somebody feeling a little checked out and saying to me, hey, Judith, do you think, here's what we're thinking, the pros, the cons, etc. What if I just go out one more time? I'm like, that's perfectly fine. I actually want you to learn how to go out with someone several times and then break it off. And they're like, that's terrible. I'm like, no, because right now we honestly don't know if he or she is Mr. or Mrs. Right.
Well, that's the whole purpose of dating. And
it's the whole purpose.
The whole purpose of dating, but many people see dating as especially multiple dates, as a commitment.
Right. It's not a commitment. It's not a commitment. And the other thing too is, of course, you're not going to portray this is a commitment. You're not going to see the person Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights.
Right.
And then go on your other dates, Saturday to a beach and, Sunday out to coffee. You're not going to play it that way. You're going to see somebody once every week and a half or 2 weeks. So they know you're busy with work, you're busy with friends, and maybe you're dating other people.
Yep.
You cannot start seeing somebody night after night after night and you circumvent everything. And I always tell people, when you settle for Mr. Wrong, Mr. Right is getting onto the website that you used to be active on a day ago.
Right.
And it's kind of like,
it's funny. People have the FOMO, the fear of missing out with the person they're dating, thinking if I don't
FOMO,
yeah, fear of missing out. that they have it with the person they're dating, thinking like this is a curb alert. It's like, if I don't continue to date this person, someone else is going to date him. But the real opportunity cost is not that person. It's the person that they didn't meet because they were locked into this person.
Right.
Yep.
And I know I've talked about it here. I did that with this very guy. I said to myself, is it a 10? Nope. Some days it can be a 10 when we're having a good time and it's fun. But overall, it's a struggle. You know, I think we waffled between really a 3 and a 9. And the 3s, 4s, and 5s were more often than I would like.
Yeah.
And I think I tried to justify it. I tried to feel like, well, you know, clearly half the reason for our issues was me poking a bear about topic. Yeah. Were they legit? Yep. But should I have said, if we're not talking about them or you're not going to tell me the truth, then I'm walking. Yeah, I should have done that.
Yeah.
You know, and I kick myself, honestly, because there were 2 other guys that were great contenders. They just didn't call me often enough. And I was kind of miffed, to be honest. You know, I just kind of felt like they're not trying at all. But that's not really true, because one guy traveled a lot. So he'd be in Australia for a week and a half.
Yep.
Come back, get settled for a couple of days. Then he'd reach out. But, you know, that would have been a healthier choice. And and then the other guy that I was crazy about had that talk with me one day on the phone. I'll never forget. I was in a gift store and the whole store heard the conversation. It was in Kenmore Square. And I was waiting for my friend to meet me because he was taking me to a Red Sox game. Mm-hmm. And this guy tells me over the phone, hey, you know, I just want to be honest with you. I'm like, oh, shoot, here it comes. Here it comes. And he said, hear me out. I'm like, here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. I dated a woman, you know, a couple of years ago, a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And we parted ways after whatever it was, like 2 years, year and a half. And she circled back. I'm like, of course she did. Because now I'm dating you, you know. She circled back and she wants to get together. And I feel like I owe it to her and the relationship that we had just to see what's up. So in other words, see where the conversation goes. Because obviously he'd, you know, probably loved her, right?
Yep.
For all I know, you know, I don't know the circumstances. For all I know, she broke his heart. I don't even know, but whatever. So I was so ticked at that.
She was the white whale.
What?
She was the white whale. She was the white whale. Yeah.
Yep. And I was, you should have heard me. I was just like, I really asserted myself. I don't usually assert myself quite so eloquently, but I was like, okay, so wait a minute. So you're going to choose to tell me on the phone that this woman from your past just popped up and you want to feel it out and see if there's anything there. I'm like, don't call me again. That's just, you know, that's, you know, I don't want to be second fiddle. Either you're going to make that work or I'm like, you know what? I feel like he shouldn't have told me. I feel like it would have been better for him not to tell me because he just knocked me right off the chair. You know, I was just like, now I'm going to be thinking about that.
Perhaps, but he was being upfront. Yeah.
Right. But I felt like, you know, I don't think he should have told me that. I think he could have just said, he could have told me that this woman circled back into his life. Could have told me that 2 days after he met with her and saw what she had to say.
Yeah.
So he blew it. I couldn't get back, but it was really too bad because I really liked him.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot. I just couldn't. I was sort of stubborn.
All right. You got to give contact information here.
Darn it. Okay. We're done already talking about dating and why we need to date lots of people and why we need to listen to us and our friends.
Well, this sounds like a part 2 next week. That's
yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah.
So this is Judith Jamison, Coach Judith. Go to my website, judithjamison.org, and you can shoot me an email from there and let's have a conversation. My consultations are free. So you need some dating help or you know someone that does, marriage, they need help. I've never lost a couple. Or they need divorce advice, divorce help. How do I do it? Where do I go? What attorneys do I hire? And who do I talk to at midnight when I can't sleep? That would be me.
Yep.
So that's it. Coach Judith, everybody. Have a great week. Be well, be healthy. See you next week. Don't mess around.